Nelson Jordan. I'm Chris Nelson. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube page, follow us on all of our social media pages, and listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Talking some NHL. We had banner night down in Sunrise, Florida, as the Florida Panthers hosted the Chicago Blackhawks. We had the Pittsburgh Penguins at the New York Rangers and the Colorado Avalanche at the Los Angeles Kings. So let's go ahead and start with that banner night as the Panthers dropped the championship banner from last year, the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Two-time defending Stanley Cup champions, however you'd like to look at that, both. They were without Matthew Tkachuk, Thomas Nosek, and Alexander Barkov, but pulled out a 3-2 win to give the fans something to continue to celebrate along with that banner there on opening night over the Chicago Blackhawks. And what were your takeaways from the game?
This game was youth versus veterans. You had a team that just won back-to-back championships titles in the NHL. You have a team that's on, I don't want to say on the rise, but they're looking to make steps this year on the rise to become better this year. There are a lot of young talent that's headed with the Chicago Blackhawks with Bedard and company. And, Chicago, Frank Nazars came in the first. AJ Greer's came first for Florida in the first. Carter Vergate, also came with his
In the
goal
first
in the
period.
first.
Correct.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And Teuvo Teravainen, his goal came in
Right.
second period, right? And then Jesper Vukovst had this wonderful goal, and I say wonderful because in the NHL they teach you as either F1 or F2 when you are essentially putting the puck down into the opposite blue line. You're having to chase, and then you're having to go towards the goalie and essentially towards that middle ice, essentially what they call the slot position. And we see Jasper just fly in there, and all you see is a beautiful pass coming from Mackey. He chips it right into the goal, and it chips off I would say the handle or the blade, if you will, past Knight. And I thought Knight had an incredible game for Chicago Blackhawks, who Knight is also a backup goaltender under Bobrovsky back for the Florida Panthers. And I thought he did great. I thought he kept Chicago mainly in this game. I thought we saw a lot of great success from Chicago because, again, they were showing their speed, probably more so in the second period and the third period. But where Florida really won this game, and it's just because of their grittiness, their physicalness, their ability to apply all the forecheck, the pressure, and to be physical. Because by the end of the game, the Blackhawks were gassed. Even though this was the first game, they cannot get the puck passed for the 3 minutes remaining of the period when the goalie Knight was trying to get off so that way they can get an extra attacker on the ice. And power to the Florida Panthers. They earned this game. They outshot them. They were far superior in this game. And if anything, if you're the Blackhawks, I'll leave it at this for any take that you may have afterwards. If this was the old Blackhawks from a year ago or the year past, they would have easily lost this game, maybe a 5-1, a 4-0. But no, they kept it within one goal. They were able to at least prove themselves that, hey, maybe we can start competing in some of these tougher games. So good game overall, 3-2 to start the night. What do you think?
Yeah, in reality, if those guys aren't out for Florida, this game isn't close at all. That's the only reason this game was close is because of the guys they were missing. I mean, those just aren't just any players. That's arguably their best player, one of the best players in the NHL. Another one of their by far best players, one of the top players in the NHL. I mean, that's tough. It worked out for us because we got this close game, and it was an entertaining game. It was exciting. And it did come down to a game-winning goal in the third period. It did get off to a fun start with Chicago scoring, and Florida immediately responded, and then that crowd really got into it. It got energized. They got the go-ahead goal late in the first period. And credit to Chicago for outplaying the second period, but the reality is, over the course of the full game, Florida dominated. I mean, the final score was close, and it did come down to that. All the credit in the world for Knight for withstanding the endless Florida onslaught because they were just coming at him nonstop with shots on shots and shots on goal. I mean, so many scoring opportunities, and obviously he gave up a few, but he saved so many more.
Yeah.
And so, in reality, when you really watched it and looked at it and break it down, Florida dominated the game. It was simply his greatness that kept them in this.
Yeah.
And that's impressive when you consider who the goaltender is on the other side. So, entertaining game. credit where credit is due, but the reality is Florida, if they're healthy, which we're probably not going to see this season, but they're significantly better than Chicago at this point in time. At least they look like they would have been on this night. So the Pittsburgh Penguins went to Madison Square Garden and beat the New York Rangers 3-0. Mike Sullivan's debut as the new Rangers head coach after spending the previous 10 years as the head man in Pittsburgh. Took them to back-to-back Stanley Cup final championships in his first 2 seasons there and lost 3-0 in his debut at Madison Square Garden. The guy who replaced him in Pittsburgh, the new head man there, spent the past 2 years as an assistant with the Rangers. So his return to Madison Square
Damn
Garden there in
Muse.
New York. So yeah, so some interesting storylines with the coaches, but ultimately when it came down to it, a 3-0 shutout victory for the Rangers. And what did you see?
Well, let's just first start off with an important note. Could this be the last year for the trio of Letang, Crosby, and Malkin? I mean, they were talking, it's officially on the broadcast. And quite frankly, this could be the last year. Crosby, we don't know if he's going to get another contract with Pittsburgh. I'm sure he will try to do so, but the other two, there's unknown remaining for Pittsburgh. And these were cornerstone players for the Pittsburgh franchise for over 20 years. Now, what was interesting too, if anybody was watching the game as well, they had new blood also. So they were calling this a transition year. They had two brand new rookies on the team, teenagers, by the name of Ben Kindle, centerman, and defenseman Harrison Brunke as well. Both of these guys are 18 and 19. Ben is from Canada, and Harrison is from South Africa. I didn't know South Africa had some hockey talent. So, long story short, with this game, if you're looking at the box score, you would think that this game was close. That wasn't the case. Pittsburgh, I think they were more advantageous in behind the blue line. They had, I think, a better advantage when it came to some of their forwards having to be more physical against the line against the blue liners of the New York Rangers. That's why Pittsburgh started off with the first goal of Brazo scoring his goal. And then from then on, it just became more so of a little bit of a sloppy game where both were, trying to make plays and a lot of them were, crossing the goalies and whatnot. I think Pittsburgh probably would say they want to have a few back because they definitely had Shesterkin on his skates. But ultimately, New York hung in there, at least for the sloppiness that it was. And Mike Sullivan was correct. At the end of this game, the Rangers were nowhere near ready for this game. They seemed a little lackluster at times. We expect more from Artemi Panarin and some of their other players as well that they have on that squad. And you know, and ultimately the score was 3-0 because they had to pull their goalie so that way they can try to score tying goal with about 3 minutes or so left, and that's when it became obviously empty netters. But besides that, I mean, you got to give it for Sid and company and the rest. They started off the year well, whereas last year they didn't. And obviously Mike Sullivan losing to his former team, that kind of stings a little bit for Mike. So he definitely wanted to see New York Rangers win this game, but hey, sometimes you got to tip the hat to the other team, and that's the way that I saw it.
I don't think anybody's looking at a 3-0 score and thinking it was a close game, but it was a closer game than what the score indicated. And you just said it. Those last two goals were empty netters, so they essentially came in what amounts to garbage time. I mean, there was no goalie in there to make those saves. And look, if you love defense, this was the game for you. But it wasn't exactly a masterpiece of artwork here. It was not
Yeah,
pretty, as you stated. And the first Penguins goal came on what amounted to a defensive breakdown with 32 seconds left in the first period. So if that doesn't happen, there's a good chance this game is going the distance and maybe even to some, beyond regulation. But the way it played out, credit to the Penguins. Look, both defenses were tremendous. The goaltending was tremendous. Maybe some ineptitude, from the offenses as well. And that just is what it is at this point in time. It's one game. There's 82 of them. We'll see. But the reality of the matter is that the Penguins made a few more plays than the Rangers. They were able to get that goal late in the first period, and that set them up to get the couple up netters at the end. It looks like a dominant win,
right,
and they went on the road and they got a
right.
win, and that's really all you can ask for in the regular season. That you can go on the road and get a win against your
Start
former
the
coach
season.
from the past 10
Right,
years. You're happy with
right,
that, and you take it and you move on.
right.
The Colorado Avalanche went to Los Angeles and beat the Kings 4-1. What were your takeaways?
Colorado definitely took this opening game personal. Colorado is definitely a team of the past, I'd say, handful of years, if not several years, always championship caliber. That's why they have the talent on their top six line. or top six of their front two lines. LA didn't look ready to take the ice in this game, frankly. Um, Now, I think Colorado had obviously chances all the way throughout the whole entire game. LA was definitely on the back skates from the front. And then in the second period, we saw a complete onslaught from the LA, from Colorado, excuse me, with their constant forecheck, the constant play of Nathan McKinnon, and you also saw many goals, three goals by Sam Malinsky, Martin Necas, and Arturi Lekkinen. All of them scored literally within 10 minutes in the second period, with which at that point just deflated the heck out of the Crypto.com arena where the LA Kings play. I mean, the way they were playing, they had Darcy Kemper just constantly looking around. Where is this cup, puck coming from, left and right? It was hard for him to see, and even when he did, he was giving up rebounds off his pads, and those rebounds were really bad rebounds because they were either right in front of him or they were right in front of sticks, which are bad. You don't want that to happen, and that was one of his biggest no-nos, even as the goalie for them coming up to the ranks in his whole hockey career. He just gives up bad goals, and that's what he did. And you cannot do that to a team like the Colorado Avs that love to have second chances. So honestly, the Avs were just way ahead in this game. They were way faster all night long with the forecheck. It may not have seemed like that on the box score because the LA Kings made a push late. They made a push late. They had a power play goal, I believe, to at least bring it back within three at that point, but it was a little too late. And by then, no, I mean this was total domination by the Avs. Honest to God, I mean, what can you say? And if anything else, this is just the Avs basically making a statement again. Hey, we're back in the NHL, guys. As long as we're healthy, we should be championship caliber coming out of the Western Conference. Honest to God.
Yeah, the only thing positive to say for LA realistically is that it was scoreless after the first period because then the Avs just put an onslaught on them. Those three goals in the second period you mentioned that added a fourth to make it 4-0 in the
Right,
third. The Kings
right,
goal came in what amounted to garbage time on the power play. I mean, it just didn't matter. The score really doesn't indicate just how dominant this was. The Avs looked outstanding. The Kings looked completely overmatched. I mean, the Avs looked so good. Nate McKinnon is absolutely incredible. You touched on it a little bit. I mean, he's just so fast and in control. He's absolutely spectacular. We obviously know that. That's nothing new, but it's just so fun to watch every single time you have the opportunity to, no matter how often it happens. Hundreds of games. It
right,
just doesn't matter. He's incredible. They're just so talented. They're way ahead of the Kings. And you had said it was
right.
unfortunate for those home fans there in LA who love that team. But the reality is they knew going in that that team was likely a lot better than them. And that team is a lot better than them, at least from what we saw in that one. That's all we have for right now, guys. We know there's so much going on. We've got hockey now. We've got playoff baseball. We've got football and the WNBA finals. So do like Nelson and get your quad box going. Watch all of it the rest of the week, all weekend. Enjoy. That's all we've got for today. For Nelson Jordan, I'm Chris Nelson. This has been the First and Final Word.